How is my connection now? I've switched from my headset microphone to the computer's mic. Better? Thank you. Okay. Housekeeping was how to get points. Send me your PIN number and your information. I will submit that to PPAI. If you don't know your PIN number, go ahead and send that to your executive director of your regional association, and they can take care of that for you. I do have this slide repeated at the end of the presentation. So, has anybody ever had a bad day at work? What's the worst you've ever felt at work? What sorts of things make for a bad day at work? When you think about that, you can also look at the other side. What about your best day at work? What sort of things make for a great day at work? If you give some thought to those two questions, it serves as a good introduction to what I'm going to be talking about over the next 30 or 40 minutes. Today, you're going to learn about how to prevent bucket dipping, how to shine a light on what's right, how to make best friends, how to give unexpectedly, and how to reverse the golden rule. All of those 5 strategies are for the purpose of creating positive emotions in the workplace, and that increases productivity, it retains top performers, and it improves customer engagement. What's all this bucket stuff anyway? Well, everyone has an invisible bucket. I have one, you have one, and this invisible bucket can be either completely full, sloshing over, or it can be partially full, partially empty, or completely dry. Here's the deal. We are at our best when our buckets are overflowing. When our buckets are sloshing around and everything's going well, our bucket's full, we're in flow. That old psychological word for just feeling a sense of well-being and that life is working for us. We're moving, we're happy, we're feeling good, we're feeling creative, we're having great ideas, we're feeling energized. What a full bucket feels like. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're at our worst when our bucket's empty. When our bucket's empty, nothing's going right. Life's just not cooperating with us. So we get behind that person in the car going 15 miles an hour with their right turn blinker on. Everything just seems to be conspiring against us. We get frustrated, sad, worried, anxious. We're just not attracting good things. It gets to the point where you don't even want to pick up the telephone because it's like, what more bad news can come my way? We feel negative, and we are negative. We're tired. We feel weary. Not only do we all have a bucket, everyone also has an invisible dipper. And in each interaction, we get to use our dippers to either fill or dip from other people's buckets. And here's the magical part. It sounds weird because it's crazy. But here's the magical part. When we choose to fill someone else's bucket, our bucket gets fuller. And when we choose to dip from someone else's bucket, our bucket gets empty. I know that sounds crazy, but it's it's backed by science. Research by Gallup organization over millions and millions of people over decades just keeps supporting this finding. So here's the point. When we help others, we make that choice to help others, we're actually helping ourselves. Harvard researchers decided to try to verify this, and they did a study. And they gave an envelope containing between $5 and $20 to individuals on a random basis, with random instructions in the envelope as well. Some of the people were told, here's $5, here's $20, go spend that on yourself. And others, the instructions were to spend the money on others. And then they tracked. How did these people feel? What was their emotions like? And they found that the people who spent money on others, they had a higher sense of wellness, of happiness, and joy than those who spent it on themselves. This happens for us in each and every interaction. Scientists have a word for it. They call it moments. How many moments do you think we have in each day? Well, according to Nobel Prize-winning economist Daniel Kahneman, he says we experience approximately 20,000 moments in each day. 20,000. 20,000 times where we have a choice to either fill buckets or dip from buckets. When we have a choice to either fill our own bucket or to empty our bucket. So what moments do we remember throughout a day? Think about it. What happens when you have a neutral encounter? Neutral encounters rarely stay in our minds. We don't even notice them. We just kind of flow through them unconsciously. But what about positive moments? And things that make us feel good, make us feel alive, energized, creative, good about ourselves. Well, those are memorable. We remember those moments. And what about negatives? Yeah, I still remember being behind the car going 15 miles an hour with the blinker going on and the sense of road rage. Negative moments are also extremely memorable. The most memorable moments in our lives are almost always very positive or very negative. So why is it important for us to understand how many moments we experience in a day? That's because by knowing there are so many thousands of moments in a day, we can realize how often we have and how many opportunities we have to influence others, either positive or negative. 9 out of 10 people say they're more productive when they're around positive people. I don't find that surprising at all. Every time you fill someone's bucket, you help increase their productivity because you're filling their bucket. And the magical part is you're also filling your own, so you're becoming more productive. There's a magic formula for positive to negatives. We need to have 5 positives happen to us for every negative to be in a sense of having a relatively full bucket. Now think about that for a moment. Think about the last interaction you had with someone you really cared about. What kind of interaction did you have with your spouse or your children as you left for work this morning? Was it a positive or was it a negative? If you're in a relationship with a very special person, your spouse or significant other, you need to maintain that formula, that balance of 5 to 1. Because the research also shows that in relationships, as that ratio moves down, when it gets down to 1 to 1, 1 positive for 1 negative, there's a 94% probability of divorce. You can help balance your own magic ratio by making positive choices. I remember when I used to have to drive to work, and I had a bit of a drive, and I had a very unhealthy habit of pulling into McDonald's. And I had just given this presentation and was reflecting on it and was not really feeling that good. I probably made some bad choices the night before as well. But as I pulled into the McDonald's, I thought I would test it. And I looked in my rearview mirror, and there was a senior citizens, a couple, in the car behind me. And I told the cashier that as I paid for mine, that I wanted to pay for theirs. So she processed that. And she processed mine. And as I pulled out, I looked in my rearview mirror as the couple was receiving their breakfast, and the cashier was telling them that someone else had paid and was pointing to my car. And the look on their faces just brought so much positivity and so much sense of well-being. I mean, it really filled my bucket. It filled my bucket for the rest of the day. Increasing positive emotions can actually lengthen our lifespan. Again, Gallup research showed that people that live positive lives, on average, live 10 years longer. So there's a lot of great reasons for wanting to keep our buckets full. The other thing about being positive, as I mentioned, full buckets, we increase our personal productivity. Positive reinforcement's not just the right thing to do because it makes people feel better. It's the right thing to do because it improves performance and influences business results. This is a Wall Street type thing. This is a thing that shows up on the stock market. Companies that are rated best workplaces also outperform other companies financially. There was a study done all the way back in 1924 called the Hurlock study. It was done in schools, and it showed that students that received positive reinforcement outperform students that receive criticism or no response at all, just get ignored. And that's been held true. It's been tested for years, since 1924, and always holds true. The trap we fall into is often when we criticize someone, their behavior changes immediately, and the criticizer gets rewarded for having made that criticism. But study after study shows that criticism, poor behavior, the poor productivity drops back to the other level very soon, where positive reinforcement will also improve and keep the positive results and the productivity increases going up. If you have children and they bring home a report card and there's 3 A's and a C and an F, which grade do you focus on? Research shows that most Americans focus on the F, and they totally ignore what the student's doing right. Managers who focus on recognizing the positive things help create engaged employees. Engagement, that popular, great word right now, because it is showing so much that employees who are engaged, who really enjoy their work, who are giving it their all, they just outperform in every level. You know, the trap of that criticism, giving people an initial bump in improvement, it's short-lived. But eventually, the method of using positive reinforcement showed greater results over a greater length of time. Gallup also did a study regarding recognition, and they included 10,000 businesses over 30 different industries. It shows a direct link between regular recognition and praise and several specific business outcomes that increase individual productivity. I'm getting some feedback that there's still some funkiness in the sound. I really don't know what to do with it. I've tried the mic and I've tried it using the computer's microphone, which is what I'm using now. I'm assuming it's still better than it was with the headphone mic. So we're talking about increasing engagement at work. Why is that important? Well, people collaborate better. They get along better. And thank you, Gail. I just got some feedback that those who are on phones aren't getting the funky the funky sound. The funky sound. Increased engagement at work helps people get along better. Helps people collaborate. It's such a stage for innovation and for creativity. But what also, people that are engaged employees stay around. They stick with the organization. Retention is no longer a problem for companies with engaged employees. Engaged employees also receive higher loyalty scores and satisfaction scores from customers. Very important in this day and age where people are sharing what they're experiencing with companies online and through social media. And so engaged employees really get happy customers. They turn customers into what I say in my new rule of marketing definition, into raving fans. Also, engaged employees work safer. They have better safety records. They have fewer accidents on the job. But there's a shocking fact here. In the United States, of all American workers, 65% report that they received no recognition at all in the workplace over the last year. How is that possible? Doesn't it seem like we give more recognition than that? It's critical to understand that even though we think we give recognition, the type of recognition we give may not be perceived to be recognition by the person receiving it. I like to say it's not recognition if it doesn't fill their buckets. What are we doing wrong? And what can we do about people with empty buckets in the workplace? People with full buckets have a more positive impact on business than people who have empty buckets. What's the impact of people with empty buckets? Well, as you might expect, there's a talent drain. When people's buckets are empty, they leave. The number one reason that people leave their jobs, they don't feel appreciated. Sometimes they even leave for lower paying jobs or for no jobs if their buckets are just getting emptied by what's happening in the workplace. Unengaged workers, workers with empty buckets, they actually drive away customers. And Gallup did a study of call centers with over 4,000 representatives. They found 8 people that are so negative that they actually scare away every single customer they speak to in a day for good. They're not coming back. I think all of us can probably think of a couple of companies we've dealt with their customer service who we may have spoken to that customer service rep. But this is horrible. These people would be better off getting paid to stay away from work because of the damage they're doing. And they're doing it because their buckets are empty. They cost companies very big money. It's estimated that over 22 million workers in the United States are extremely negative. They call that actively disengaged. And that translates to 250 to 300 billion with a B in lost productivity alone. That's a huge, huge number. And worse, would you believe that when people's buckets are empty, they're more likely to get sick? Gallup says that bad bosses actually increase the risk of stroke by 33%. That's right, a bad boss can actually kill you. Empty buckets are dangerous, and all of us have to be aware that we have 20,000 moments every day to choose to fill someone else's bucket. It doesn't need to take money, kind word, simple observation. So many people could use just a kind word to change their life for the better. The author Tim Sanders, in his book Love is the Killer App, tells the story of an email that he received from a manager on the West Coast who had decided to make a conscious and regular effort to recognize and fill the buckets of his employees. Like he promised, Steve went to all 6 of his reports and told them why he appreciated them and one thing that they do wonderfully. One of the software engineers, Lenny, came in the next day and presented him with a badly wrapped but well-intentioned gift. Steve opened it and found an Xbox gaming console. He was blown away. Steve wondered how Lenny could afford such an extravagant gift, given that they'd had pay cuts over the last year, so he asked Lenny, "Where did you get the money for such a great gift?" Lenny looked him in the eye and said, "Hold my 9mm pistol, boss." That got Steve's attention. I thought it would get your attention too. Lenny continued, "You never asked, so I never told you. I moved here from Denver last year after my mom died. She was my best and only friend. Never made friends here, either at work or in my apartment building. After 3 months, I got totally depressed. I went to a pawn shop in my neighborhood and I bought a beautiful chrome-plated pistol and a handful of bullets. And I started a routine every night. After work, I'd get home, eat a bowl of ramen, listen to Nirvana, and get the gun out. It took almost a month for me to get the courage to put bullets in the gun. And it took a couple of months to get used to the feeling of that cold barrel on the top of my mouth. For the last few weeks, I was just beginning to put ever so slight pressure on the trigger. It's getting so close, Steve. So close. And then last week, you freaked me out, man. Came into my cubicle, put your arm around me, told me you appreciated me because I turn in all my projects early. And that helps you sleep at night. Remember? You said I have a great sense of humor over email and that you're glad I came into your life. That night after work, I went home and I ate my ramen, put on Nirvana. When I got the gun out, it scared me silly for the first time. All I could think about was what you said. That you're glad I came into your life. So the next day I went back to the pawn shop and I sold the gun. saw this Xbox, and I remembered that you'd wanted one worse than anything, but with the new baby at home, you couldn't afford it. So for my life, you get this game. Thanks, boss. Recognition. Recognition. We don't know what things other people are living with or what things are affecting them, but it takes so little to make a major change in lives, to change from negatives to positives, because positive emotions protect us. They protect us from, and they can undo the effects of negative emotions. They can fuel resilience. They can transform people. They can save lives, like the case of Lenny. They break down racial barriers and other barriers that come between people. They broaden our thinking. It encourages us to discover new lines of thought. It gives us new ways of thinking and taking action. It helps us build durable physical, intellectual, social, and psychological resources that can function as reserves during trying times. Also, it improves the overall performance of a group, produces optimal functioning in organizations and individuals. So how do we do that? How do we help people and recognize them? We need to learn how to tell them. Some individuals find that just about anything motivates them. Others find that it takes a very unique and special things to help them feel appreciated. It's important to get people to really think about what are their motivators. It's okay to experiment and change your mind. The key is to spend some time and really discover the most effective ways to fill your bucket. How do you like to be appreciated and recognized? A group, a personal note, one-on-one, from family members. Think about how you want to be appreciated. And also, if you have reports or people you work with, ask them. They're the best source. Does it matter who gives you recognition? And how do you want to be shown? Gift certificate? Money? Title? A dinner? An event? Lunch with the boss? Or some other way? I have a request of, can I see this online? Has my connection dropped, the visual? Still working on my end, so I'm going to keep going. So think about how you like to be shown and how you want other people want to be shown. And I apologize for the strange microphone situation today. Who needs to know? When you recognize someone, who needs to know about it? Their peers, the manager, the company president, family, friends, significant others, someone else? Who needs to know? It comes down to who's deserving. The more individualized, specific, deserved you can make the recognition, the more likely it will have a stronger, more positive impact on the person who's receiving it. Think of a specific recognition you've given to someone recently. Who was deserving of it? Why specifically did you give this person recognition? What did you do? How did you individualize it? When's the best time to get it? Who, why, what, how, and when are the specifics that can help you get more individualized, specific, and make recognition more meaningful. As we've seen, recognition is a key to increase positive emotions. And remember, the only way to individualize recognition is to ask the person who's receiving it. In addition, when we recognize a person, we want to keep in mind who, why, what, how, and when. Recognition is not the only way to increase positive emotions. There are other ways, such as moving from strengths You know, when we do the things we're good at, when we do the things we're good at, we're at our best. I mean, I'm left-handed. You ask me to do something right-handed, I get frustrated. Oftentimes we're asking people who may naturally be a saxophone player to play the drums, or vice versa. When we ask people to do things they're not naturally good at, that empties their buckets. So when we allow people to move from their strengths, getting to do what they do best. There's other ways also of just plain dipping less and and filling more. Excuse me. Let's look at 5 strategies to make this world more positive. Strategy number 1 is to prevent bucket dipping. Every interaction counts. Do everything that you can to make every interaction a bucket filling rather than a bucket dipping interaction. There are times when you'll have to say no to requests. That may seem negative and might be considered a dipping moment, but it doesn't have to be. There are ways and strategies for saying no without turning those moments into dipping moments. I'd like to ask you to remember a specific instance last week when you dipped from someone's bucket. Can you think of something that you did that left someone feeling less happy, less well than when your paths crossed? Recall that situation vividly in your mind. Who was it with? Where were you? What happened? How did it feel to you and to the other person? What could you have done differently? When we think of it and we become more aware, we can stop ourselves from bucket dipping. We can catch ourselves when we're pointing out the negative and instead turn it around and talk to the person about what they're doing right and what we like. Remember, what gets recognized gets repeated. So the first strategy is to prevent bucket dipping. And you do that by increasing your self-awareness of what you're saying to people and what effect you're having on people. And remember that 5-to-1 ratio, especially in your important relationships with your spouse and your children. I can't overemphasize that. Be aware of bucket dipping and stop yourself. The second strategy is to shine a light on what's right. As you decide where to focus, remember, you're more likely to see improvement in areas where you're already strong. Think of how you can be shining a light on what's right. Think about how you can help others. Think about how you can be more courteous. And this seems awfully soft, but it's the small things, the little things that add up to turning off the negativity faucet and helping yourself be more positive. And again, by filling other people's buckets, you'll be filling your own. Have you praised someone in the last 24 hours? You have a knack for making other people feel good? I mean, most people agree they're more productive when they're around positive people. Have you, in the last 24 hours, told someone that you've cared about them? You try to make a point to get acquainted with people wherever you go. When you get recognized, does that make you want to recognize others? Have you listened to someone talk through his or her goals and ambitions? Can you make people laugh? You call your associates by the names that they like to be called by. You notice excellence around you when other people are doing something really well, when people are showing some talent that you may even wish that you were better at. Have you pointed that out to them? Simplest thing we can always do is just smile at the people we meet. Whenever you see good behavior, praise it. Those are just some of the areas where you can have a positive impact on others by shining a light on what's right. The next strategy may seem cheesy. Can we all be BFFs, best friends forever? Well, one of the things that Gallup points out of places that are recognized as the best places to work, nearly everyone agrees to the statement, I have a best friend at work. How do you make best friends? Well, you make best friends by showing an interest in and appreciation for another human being. That's just a natural bucket filler. And the more you know about a friend, a colleague, even a parent or a child, the more you're able to bring to that to light in a conversation. And the greater the positive effect of that particular interaction, that moment. You know what your friends and colleagues' hobbies and special interests are, who their family, friends, and significant others are. You know something about them that few people know. Is there something at work that they're best at? You know the best way to fill their bucket. When you can answer those questions, you can develop best friendships. Best friendships of people that it fills your bucket to be around and it fills their bucket when you're around them. And the best way to do that is to ask them and to be thinking about questions that you can ask about a topic that will enhance a relationship. What can you ask someone about their specialties, their hobbies and special interests? What can you ask them about their family and friends, or what they're best at, or how they like their bucket to be filled? Oftentimes it also can involve just asking them what's important to them today. But work at developing best friends. The fourth strategy is to give unexpectedly. Getting a gift on our birthday and at certain holidays is routine and expected. But when we give something to someone unexpectedly, when we get that note in the mail that we weren't expecting, or that thank you note, or that little personal touch, that's what really fills buckets. Think, what can I do for someone who's done something for me? What can I do for someone who's done something that I want to recognize? What can you do for someone who has a behavior you want to see repeated? A lot of times we get kind of hung up on what we need to do, and since we can't decide, we do nothing at all. So instead, do something. It could be as simple as just writing a brief note. The name of this program, How Full Is Your Bucket, is actually based on a program that can be implemented in the workplace, and Gallup has a drop of water shaped note that you basically fill out and put a drop in someone's bucket. You don't need a formal bucket for that. Any scrap of paper will do. A nice thank you note, handwritten card. All of those are just little forms of telling people what's important. Again, in the story of Steve and Lenny, Steve did that so well at saying, you use humor in email. You always get your work done on time, and that helps me sleep better at night. Getting very specific of why of the recognition and what it means. The what of recognition will vary, but the what can be as simple as a drop in the bucket type note, a quick little handwritten note, or I'm going to give you examples of a couple other ways that we can give. You decide the who. Think for a moment, who deserves recognition? And then think about a why. And then how you want to individualize it and surprise someone. Here's 7 gifts that we can give. We can give the gift of service, of doing something for someone. The gift of affection, of showing them that we really care. Some are better than others at telling a joke or providing some levity and laughter to a situation. That's a gift. Some of us are pretty gifted writers. And just writing a personal note and expressing that recognition is a huge gift. You'll be surprised at how people keep them around for years and years. The gift of a compliment. Many people put a lot of work into how they get dressed in the morning, how they coordinate their outfits. A simple recognition of that goes a long way to making them feel good. The gift of listening. We don't know what other people are going through, and we can just be there. We don't need to be expressing anything other than the fact that we care and showing them that through the gift of listening. And the gift of solitude, of sometimes just sitting quietly with another person to let them know that you care and that you're there. The 5th strategy is reverse the golden rule. In the case of bucket filling, do unto others as you would have them do unto you doesn't apply. Instead, we suggest this variation. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. You know, oftentimes what we would like isn't what other people would like. And the best way to do that is to ask. Think of someone that you want to get to know, that you want to be able to fill their bucket. You know what name they like to be called by? I once had an employee with my company that we called by the wrong name, or called her by a name that she did not prefer to be called by, because nobody ever asked. Asking a person what their hot buttons are, what their hobbies are, what their interests are, what they like to talk about a lot. Maybe starting a conversation that you have a hard time ending. What increases your positive emotion, or what fills your bucket? You can ask someone that, and they'll tell you. From whom do you like to receive recognition or praise? It varies a lot from person to person. What type of recognition or praise do you like best? Do you like public, private, written, verbal, or other kinds of recognition? What forms of recognition motivate you the most? Do you like gift certificates, a title for winning a competition, a meaningful note or email, or something else? And here's a great question to ask someone. What's the greatest recognition you ever received? That will tell you a lot about the person and will allow you to customize and individualize and personalize your recognition of them. If you want to be happier, if you want to have a full bucket, if you want to be more productive and live more fully, fill the buckets of others. Organizations with a culture of bucket filling are more profitable, they're more productive, and they have more engaged employees. People who focus on each moment and focus each moment on filling buckets live lives that are richer, happier, and more fulfilled. Thank you. I'd like to invite all of you to continuing Wild Wednesday webinars. These are brought to you by MIPA and now in cooperation with all of the District 3 regional associations. We call this a Tom Experience. There'll be a Tom show coming to Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, and Detroit the first week after Expo. That's January 20 through 24. Going to be a great traveling regional show with a lot of extras that you just can't get at any other traveling tabletop show. Also like to invite you to join us next month, Wednesday, December 18, same place, same time, anymeeting.com/MIPA1. I will look at a couple of other microphones before then. We're going to have David Miller, president of Chocolate Inn and Taylor and Grant. He's going to talk to us about From Sweet to Savory, uncovering the potential of the food category. And we have an exciting lineup for 2014 already in the works. In January, How to Create a Referral Program by Stacy Garrett. I heard Stacy give this presentation down in Birmingham, Alabama, and it is a phenomenal program on how you can put together a structured referral program to build your business. Stacy used this to build a book of business over $1 million, and I've got to say, it works, and it's an impressive way to go. We're going to have Mark Graham on how to build a business with social media, Gemline on custom, how to use LinkedIn, really, by Joseph Scott. And I can't wait to hear Joe speak on this. It's a great prospecting tool that all of us need to know how to use in the new economy. And to have Joe Duran talking about the education market, Joel Schaefer on holiday sales, Ann Lardner from PPAI is going to bring us what everybody needs to know about product safety. Plus Ronnie Wright, Dana Zezel, myself, and more. Every month we're going to be putting together a fabulous webinar and hope that you can join us. As I promised, if you want to get points for this presentation and you know your PIN number or you're a member of MIPA, just send me your contact information, email, phone number, etc. to paul@mipa.org. If you don't know your PIN number and you're not a member of MIPA, send that information to the executive director of your regional association. CAS points with PPAI. And just want to thank you. If you want more information on this whole bucket theory, there is a website, howfullisyourbucket.com. Has lots of resources, including templates for the bucket, the drop the droplet thank you notes that I mentioned, and my contact information is there. This presentation is also available as a half or full day facilitation for an organization. So, once again, thank you for attending today, and look forward to seeing you at an industry event or on our next Wild Wednesday webinar. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.